what do we have to make a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion that we go back into session. Stephanie, all in favor? Aye. Okay. 9:58, we're back in session for the budget hearings, and Ms. Dodd is with us. And we will go into yours, Samantha. We have what? I'm in the wrong spot. I was looking ahead.
It's 110-250, page 87, bottom line.
Okay. Ours says 110-250, general fund, public defender.
Thank you.
Yep.
So I'm asking for a 3% increase, based upon the cost of living, and even during the last year during COVID, my office was still running with my assistant. We do not have our own office, but we were still going to court even though other offices were shut down, and now there's a lot of congestion because things weren't being resolved. So we still are diligently working, even though during COVID the last year we were still going. And also we have a bond court on Sunday, and the cost of living, I'm just asking for a 3% increase. Also, as to I'm asking for a budget for office supplies. Myself and my assistant, we are using our own resources to buy files, paper, stamps. I have approximately 165 cases. My assistant has 125, approximately. They vary, but that's approximately what it is at this time. We use our own paper, our own ink, our own printers, our own resources, our own staff to do everything for the public defender's office. Right now, there's a new Supreme Court rule that if our clients ask for discovery, we have to give it to them. So we have to use our own paper to make copies of discovery. And I just made one, and it was like this thick. I had to use my own resources to make a copy of discovery for my client. We have to supply it to them if they request it. Additionally, postage is going up, and I know other county offices do have a budget for office supplies, the sheriff's department, the state's attorney's office, courts and jurors, county board, and there's also a line item for postage for county offices. I'm just asking that we get an office supply budget so we don't have to use our own office resources out of our own pocket to pay for these items. I'm requesting $1,000 for that. Additionally, yet again, I'm asking for insurance. Surrounding counties do offer it for part-time public defenders. I am asking to be part of that. There's, to be included in the group plan. I do not have insurance myself. Kankakee offers it to their part-time public defenders. They're not full-time, they're part-time. Livingston County does. I spoke with their state's attorney. They still offer it to their part-time public defenders. I would ask that it be offered to Iroquois County part-time public defender. So, that's it.
Okay, and then next one we had was the automation account. It looks like nothing in there, so.
Yeah, there's that automation account. I don't think there's anything in there.
No.
Yeah, so.
There's
Looks like some money was spent this year.
like $72.
I don't even know how $72 was there. I don't know exactly how. I know that when people pay court costs, a certain amount goes to that automation account, but it's not very much out of court costs.
Okay.
So,
Since it has opened currently, the automation public defender has $1,129 in it.
okay. So, I know we can use that for some of our resources, but at the same time, there's no guarantee for that automation account. So I would like just a guaranteed amount that we can help contribute towards the ink, the stamps, the everything that we have to do for the public defender's office, which comes out of our own pocket. So.
Okay. Any more questions for Samantha? Or? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ginger, I think we go into yours.
Okay,
Looks like there's only 2 line items.
mine should be very easy,
There you go.
I think. I'm asking for the same, no increase this year, 111,300. What we've been doing with the levy, so, our funding is relatively stable. We saved a little money in travel and things like that last year with COVID. We were open, but we were, they made us work from home for, obviously part of the year. Actually, our numbers stayed up, so that was good. So essentially your funds, the funds that we levy for you, pay for the local staff and part of the rent. That's essentially what that pays for. We're getting about 70% match from the state right now. We're a little behind, but not as behind as we've been in the past. So, and we expect to get that. So, Ford County also contributes to the budget for the office. So a little less than half, but we prorate everything so that we make sure that everything's fair. We do that for the 4 counties that we have. So, questions?
Looks good.
Keep marching, right?
Keep doing what you're doing, I guess.
Okay, appreciate
All
it.
right,
Thank you.
thank you. Call him and see if he's free, or was he busy this morning?
No, I'm supposed to be
Who's coming in next?
Sure.
sheriff. About 15 minutes
Try and
early.
give him a call.
Yeah.
Let him know we're ready whenever he is.
These armies and prisoners over there for quite a bit less money.
Don't say that. All right, do we want to talk about this animal control since we started to, and then should be the last page in the book. Looks like everything is flat other than mileage and travel.
Yeah, and again, this may change depending on our situation, but the only addition on here is you'll see the animal claims reimbursement. Turns out in our ordinance for animal control, every March, if you've had any livestock and you can prove that you've had livestock killed by a dog, then you may get reimbursed for it, and the amounts are in the ordinance. And in this case, for FY21, you'll see $7. We had a lady turn in a claim with the proof that she had 7 chickens killed by a dog. So we reimbursed her for $7. I still didn't put anything in that line because I tried looking back to see when the last time, and we don't have a record of that payout, so.
Okay.
But everything else is.
A bucket chicken.
You get a buck of chicken, yes. I should have brought the ordinance.
That's in our ordinance?
That's in the animal control ordinance. There's a listing of animals and the prices that.
Is that in the
Yeah.
state statute or is that in, we make an ordinance for that?
I believe it's in the state statute.
It's in the county code book,
Mm-hmm.
that you have a copy of.
Well,
Yeah.
I haven't read that, John.
She might have glanced over the chicken,
I have not.
the
read
dog
that.
versus chicken section.
It tells you how much for a horse and
Well,
how much for a cow.
Right,
a
and she
pig,
turned
the whole
in,
nine
she
yards.
turned in a police report and, a picture,
Got her
so.
$7.
Got her $7.
Well, $7 is $7.
Yeah.
chicken killed is a chicken earned or something.
There's a price for goats and horses and cattle. And
They update that every year? Is this like from
I
1913 or
I'm
something?
pretty sure. Yeah, but like I said,
It's kind of serious. What
we
if
did
you
get a
dog?
well, we got a call for a loose llama. Yes.
Chickens killed by dogs.
Well, given that the chicken's only worth $1, another killing another dog is probably worth $5.
He's gonna kick it, he's not gonna kill
Well,
it
they didn't
anymore.
have
He's gonna
quarantine.
kill
Here's
it.
what, how did she know about that? How did she know about it?
It's really,
She called, the officer came, and
he built
the
his
dog
own
was in the
burial
pen
pile.
still. They
Oh.
couldn't get out of the pen
Oh.
after they disappeared.
All right.
So yeah, interesting. She read the ordinance. I'll give her that.
Well,
People
she
out
paid herself by the hour. She lost money on that. Yeah.
Yep, yes, probably, but it's principle.
All right.
Page 91.
Page 91. Sheriff, whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right, I guess I'm on the same page as you all.
Ours is the 110 general fund, 210 sheriff.
Okay. Yeah, that's the, I guess, the individual line items out of that fund. The first first six are all salary. So with the deputies and corrections, that's all set per contract, and then the sheriff's salary was set by you folks for this term. And I believe the administrative assistants, they had figured in at 2 3/4, along with the maintenance supervisor as well. So those are pretty much self-explanatory. Office expense gonna keep the same. Looking back the last several years, there's a few years we've been a little bit over, a few years we've been a little bit under, so. Merit board expense, that's usually only used every 2 years if we have to test and establish a hiring list. That usually pays for the testing. Mileage and travel, gonna stay the same. I haven't had to do any prisoner transports lately where we've paid the outside prisoner transport group to do that, but in the past when we've had to bring somebody from California or Florida or somewhere back, it's usually cheaper to go through them, so that usually covers that. Gas and oil, I went ahead and increased it 10,000. I don't know if that's gonna be needed. I don't know what's gonna happen. Obviously, in the last 6 months, we've seen gas prices go up quite a bit, and I don't know what's gonna determine next year this time what gas prices are gonna be, but you know, we're forecast to spend a little bit under that. So I went with 60 for that. Maintenance of autos, I kept the same. We're rotating them on a better basis right now, so a lot of we're not keeping cars an extra year with added miles that are nickel and diming us to death. Training, kept that at 10,000, or I actually increased that to 10,000. There was most of the training that is now mandated through the passage and signing of the criminal justice reform law that went into effect July 1. Most of that is online, but there are some courses that they are mandating that are in-person courses, so we may have a little extra cost sending people to training. The gym membership, I just put it a little over what was forecast for this year. Uniforms, weapons allowance left the same, service contracts left the same, diet of prisoners. I came down because we haven't had the population due to COVID and some other reasons. We've been averaging right now about 19. in jail, this year. Prior to COVID, we were anywhere from 27 to 30, 31. So, again, that's a thing where if our population goes up, I don't see that happening right away right now. With our population's down for the most part because of COVID. The legislature came up with some things that on certain category offenses, you get arrested, you get brought in, you get fingerprinted, photographed, processed, you get a court date, and you get out. And the biggest reason they were doing that is they didn't want COVID to be spreading through all the jails of the state. So I would say, at least for the time being, our population is probably going to stay down. Arrestees medical expense, we're paying out of the arrestees medical line item. We'll get to that in a few pages here. So that's zeroed. Prisoner supplies stays the same. GPS home confinement, we also have a GPS account that we collect the money in. So whenever we have to put somebody on GPS and we have to pay for it, we'll just take it out of that GPS home confinement account and not out of the 110-210 fund. Leads, there's a little increase in leads this year because they just did a big switch over. But I anticipate that the 5,000 will get us through next year. They came up with a new system. All the computers and everything had to be, it's a new software system for leads. So all the computers, the squad car computers, the office computers, 911 computers, all those had to be converted over to the new. Investigation expense stay the same. Maintenance and repairs staying the same. And household supplies staying the same. I don't know if anybody had any questions on any of those.
What about body cameras? Are you gonna have to have them?
20, I'm not, because I've got 489 days left. But for a department our size, they have to be mandated by January 1 of 2025.
Okay.
So there's about 4 years there, 3.5 years. The nice thing about it is, I think, because it's becoming so widespread, the costs and quality and the storage availability, those will probably all come down cost-wise, I would imagine, because everybody's getting into supplying body cams now, and it's kind of a, I get several emails over body cams and phone calls, and each manufacturer's trying to outdo the other one by giving you a better deal and trying to sell you how much better theirs is. So yeah, that would be something for
2025.
whoever gets sworn in as sheriff, December of 22, will have to, in that term, will have to make a determination. My guess is, going off of what costs are right now, and to buy 15 of them, probably actually want to go 16 or 17 to have a spare or two. The big thing is the storage of it. You have to keep the footage, and then that footage at times is FOIA-able, so people can FOIA it, and then you have to have somebody that can go in and redact things out of it, whether it's audio, blur images of juveniles or people in the background, stuff like that. So it's labor intensive.
Could be a major expense.
It very well could be. The initial cost, like I said, those are coming down. You maybe could get 15 or 16 of them in a few years for maybe 30,000. But it's going to be the cost of having someone who can make sure the system is running, make sure everything gets downloaded, and then make sure the right things get released to whether it's the state's attorney or something gets FOIA'd or something like that. Yeah, you have to have somebody that knows how to do all that. Any other questions on that first page? The next one I have is the employees, and it just shows their salaries fiscal year 2021 and then 2022. Like I said, the deputies and corrections is based on contract, and then it looks like the non-union employees are scheduled for a 2 3/4. the maintenance capital improvement, which is the next one. I believe Chris and Jill worked on that, and one of the things they were doing was resealing. Hopefully in the next month, the north parking lot and the sheriff's parking lot at the courthouse are gonna get ground up and a new asphalt pad put down. From what we've been told is after 90 days of new asphalt put down, you can seal it if you want. So rather than right now, we have, we would seal the south parking lot, and then maybe a year or two later, we'd seal north and go back and forth. They recommended that if you just seal them, put them on the same schedule, and the south parking lot is due to be resealed next year. So we just went ahead and I think budgeted to do the entire courthouse parking lot to get it all resealed at once, and then every 3 years after that, it'll be on the same schedule. Other than that, I really don't have any, the jail roof is doing fine. The courthouse roof is obviously only a few years old. We got the parking lots taken care of. We got the new system to open the cell doors, which will be completed today. That came out of public safety fund. So there's really not any capital improvements of the jail or the courthouse that need to be done for next year for sure. The next one I have is the 200 Public Safety Tax Fund 615. I did have a few questions about that. I know if it hasn't been presented yet, it will at some point during these meetings, that whether it's ETSB or Joint Dispatch is looking for 200,000 out of that. And obviously, the Finance Committee will recommend to the board what it is to be done. I did look at currently what some figures were, and as of the 19th of July, the Public Safety Fund had 565,000 in it, and if the 200,000 was going to go towards 911 ETSB for their software and stuff like that, they're at 800,000. My one question, or I guess I would feel remiss if I didn't bring it up to you, out of that 565,000 that's currently in public safety, we've got 118,000 coming out of it this year for the cell doors. We've got, I think, 150,000 of it still needs to be transferred to Joint Dispatch. And then we've only gotten one of the two vehicles we bought in, and by the time the second one gets here, which is hopefully in the next 30 to 60 days, then we pay for that, put the equipment and pay all that. Another 65,000 will come out, so there's 335,000 out of that 565 that still has to come out yet this year. Now, you'll get about 120,000 over the next 4 months that come in on that, but that's just something to kind of be aware of, that if
What's your feeling about this software stuff? I know we talked about it back in December or January.
I've been out of the ETSB enough that I probably don't have a great informed opinion on it. My whole thing has been, and maybe that's just how I've done things at the sheriff's office, is if it's, I try not to wait till the 11th hour to do something, but I don't do it. Kind of like body cams right now. I mean, I could come up with a thing and decide we could spend 60,000 and get them right now. I'm more apt to say I would wait till it gets closer to the mandate date. So I don't know what the software system is. I don't know if it's on the verge, if it's Band-Aid put together, if it's still good for 5 years. I have no idea, because I don't go to the meetings and I haven't been on the ETSB board. So it's obviously at some point it's going to have to be done. Whether it's an urgent need or can wait, that would be I don't think I have an opinion on that that would be a valid opinion.
I think the part that doesn't even get into that, if they do that, there's still, it kind of forces us to redo the jail software,
That
was
is
always the
correct.
problem.
Yes.
And we don't have those I think the last numbers he showed us there yesterday was another 60 grand on our end, on the county's end.
Well, and that would be, I would hope that the 200,000 they're asking for would cover the entire software upgrade, is what I would hope. I mean, if it's just 200 for what Ad's gonna be and then another 60.
Well, I think that
He's asking, he has it listed here in his capital improvement plan as $200,000 total, $60,000 of that for Iroquois County coming from sheriff.
let me look at this. I think he wants 200,000 for whatever, including the software. And then there's also 60 that we would have to.
And that could be, like I said, I'm not on the ETSB board and haven't been in those meetings, but,
Pretty sure.
um,
You guys know? I mean, I'm not.
I haven't been to a couple meetings.
That's-
you know, and obviously the other thing that you have to look at is, I know that they extended the sunset date on the cell phone surcharge, because that was one of the things that, you know, the dispatch centers are gonna be back in the same boat they were a couple years ago. They're not bringing in enough money, but I know they did extend that. You know, what monies they bring in off of that, I think is more than what the public safety is. I think it's 40 plus, I'm gonna say, a month. But again, that public safety money is there obviously for public safety, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention that we still have about 335,000 that have to come out of for this fiscal year.
Right.
That being said, on that, I put in for 200,000 for vehicles. All our other equipment is up to date. I only replaced 2 vehicles in the 2021 budget, so I only asked for 100,000 for those instead of 150, primarily because I knew we budgeted 125,000 for the cell door switch over, which Chris was just doing that claim today. I think it's gonna come in under, it's gonna 118,000 roughly, I think is what that came in at. So that's why I only put in for 2 cars last year, and because we only replaced 2, instead of doing 3 this year, I've got it scheduled for 4, so that's the 200,000. I can talk about squad cars a little bit here real quick. The cheap Chevy Impalas that we drove forever are no longer available. Everything now is going more SUV pickup type, which has some benefits to it. One of the things is they cost a little more, but when we go to get rid of them, there's a higher resale on them. So far, we've had less wear and tear on them. They sit up a little higher. They're better when weather conditions aren't the best than what the Impalas were. That's what we've gone with, is either the Tahoe type SUV style or pickup. Those are all state bid. Those state bids for 2022 should be coming out here. I would think sometime usually in August they come out. But that's the 200,000, and what.
So what would we be at then after this year and last year, or like, I guess where are we at in turning all that over, or?
We will get rid of, this year we're getting rid of 2 vehicles because we got 2 new ones coming in, and then next year we would get rid of 4. I still have a couple Impalas that we're running on the road that we would be getting rid of, but we would be in a rotation then that we would get rid of 4 vehicles or trade them in when we get the 4 new ones. So then we should be back on we kind of got out of the rotation 10 years ago when the budget was a lot tighter and I was getting 1 squad car a year, sometimes 2. That kind of messed up with the rotation, and then we had to start getting 3 at a time. But yeah, once we get these 4 in and get the 4 oldest out, we're actually we'll get another year out of the Tahoes. We have 2 Tahoes. One we'll get another 2 years out of for sure, because only one guy's driving it. Another one is shared. We'll get another year out of it. And like I said, right now with the market for used SUVs and trucks, the Impalas we were getting about $1,500 for by the time we were done with them. These I imagine are going to be quite a bit higher. We're going to get on a trade-in with them. So my suggestion will be to the next sheriff that if we can stay on a three vehicle a year rotation, we should be pretty good. Next
You said it earlier. How much again are we getting on the public safety every month roughly?
It runs. I'm going to safely guess probably 31,000 on average. Sometimes we'll have 33, 34, 35. Sometimes we might have 29. But and that 405,000. I know we're forecast for the 441 this year. The 405, I hope, is a low estimate. And I think we've seen some increase in that, primarily because of COVID. People are doing less traveling to go do their shopping other places, and they're going to, the Walmarts and staying local more than what they were prior to COVID.
Right. Okay.
The Sheriff's Public Safety Fund, this comes in off of the fines that we collect on arrests that we make and court dispersed fees based on convictions. So I think the 16 forecast is probably a little bit high. Again, I felt comfortable with 10,000. More than likely, it'll probably be closer to the 12 based on what we've seen in the past. But there's also, this has a possibility of changing down the road with the new criminal justice law. There's going to be some changes, I think, to fines and fees and what you can and can't collect. So I know I've talked with Lisa a little bit, and in the coming years it could affect some of the fines and fees she collects as well if some changes aren't made. So what I take this out of, usually I pay the cell phone bill every year or every month out of this. And then there's been times where if we've needed something, I'm trying to think, it was a while back, we needed upgraded flashlights for everybody. I took it out of this. This can be used, it's kind of like an automation line for the sheriff, same thing that the clerks have as far as automation. So that's that one. The police vehicle fund, we get about $40 a month out of the circuit clerk's office that goes towards that, and that's what it has to be used for, is police equipment and that. And I think 20 to $40 a month. It takes a while for it to add up. There has been some times where we've had enough in there that we've bought a used vehicle for transporting prisoners and stuff, that it takes several years for that to happen. Same with the e-citation fee. That is, I think, a couple dollars off of every traffic ticket that the county writes. Comes back to us for that. That monies can be used if and when we ever get mandated to go paperless, which it's not really paperless. You write an e-citation and you have a printer in the squad car with you, and you print out a copy for the violator, and then you drop off a copy at the circuit clerk's office. So it's not really paperless, but the standard citations are rectangular looking. There are 7 copies, and they're kind of wanting to go away from that. So they put this fee in to where counties can collect it again, based on how much we collect each year, a couple $100, it's gonna take several years for that account to build up before it will fund any type of printers and software and squad cars. Orestes Medical Cost Fund, that comes into us. We are allowed to charge the inmates for medical procedures. Initially, every inmate, when they come in, they get medically evaluated by the county nurse. That's free of cost. They don't have to pay for that. But, excuse me, anytime after that, if they request to see the nurse, if they request to see the doctor, the doctor comes out every 2 weeks unless we request him sooner than that, then they have to pay for that. We obviously can't deny them medical attention based on the ability to pay, but what happens is the cost of their medical attention is kept with the circuit clerk's office, and then at the end of their final disposition of their case in court, any fines, fees, restitution, anything like that can be added in. So we collect, I'm going to say we probably collect between $200 and $300 a month, and that goes into the medical cost fund, which this year is the first year, this fiscal year is the first year that we've been paying bills out of that. There's about $21,000 in it when we decide to do that. So hopefully for a little while we can continue to pay for that medical costs out of this and not out of the general fund. Next one is the drug abuse fund. That's where if we seize money or assets through a drug investigation, we can go through the courts and seize those items. If it's money and we get it awarded to us, we end up getting 65% of whatever it is we seize. So if we seize $1,000 and going through court, the judge awards it to us, we get 650 of that 1,000. The circuit clerk gets 10%, 12.5%. The state's attorney gets 12.5%, and then the state police get 10% for being the state police. So anyway, so that varies. There's some years where we'll seize a couple thousand, some years we won't seize any, so I put the 500 in there. And then court security, that fee has gotten healthy, which is nice. For a while there, it was under 20,000 a few years back. We pay the salary and benefits for the court security officer out of this fee, and it's gotten quite healthy in there because the legislature upped some fees a couple years ago. Now, as long as those fees stay where they're at, we'll continue to, probably collect $50,000 a year or so. If they decide that they need to make some changes in that and reduce some of those, that will obviously go down. But it has been growing as of yet. So, any questions?
I don't think so. Last time.
Yeah. Next year, obviously, that 2023 budget will be the new sheriff's, and as of yet,
Maybe not last time.
yeah. As of right now, I think so far all I know is there's only one running for sheriff. It's a guy been with the sheriff's office for 20 years, Prazeep. I haven't heard anything from anyone on the outside, but they moved the primary, so the primary's in June now instead of March. So people, if they decide they're going to run, have a little bit extra time, I guess. But yeah. So. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We can move on to you, Tom, whenever you're ready. 110-240, page 101, probation.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. In simple, really, there was no increase to operations. The only increases in the general are the raises through the collective bargaining agreement. The good news on the flip side is funding, full salary reimbursement from NYC stayed in place and is factoring in the increases. sometimes they'll flatline and say you're getting funded the same, but when everything moves up, it is a cut. So this year they're building that in through with hiring lags and different things. They've had the money there. So the 390 in the revenue, I think 390, but 390, 391. I thought that was kind of conservative because I'm still trying to figure out how they're factoring in whether they go by the June 30th vouchers, what we voucher for salaries, and then they're going to build the increases and factor that in. So I'm hoping that edges up a little bit, but I didn't want to put that down right now.
Okay.
Estimate. I wanted to kind of go with what that information from you is what was vouchered off for June 30th.
Yeah.
And their fiscal year. Like I said, the general, the operations stayed the same. Just salary. And it's been a weird year, obviously, with COVID. You can see we're coming well under budget, 5 or 6% under budget, I think, in the general right now. While things are getting back to normal, I think, it's going to be slow. As far as people going off to trainings and different things that cost you money throughout this year, I think that's going to be slow going.
Okay.
And just in the special fund, pretty much is what it is. Our fees are going to, collection is going down. Iroquois, I've said every year, is better, much better than the KP office as far as collection rate, but they are starting to just go down all around the state. And that's going to really go into place come January 23 when no cash bail. And a lot of that fees and fines, when someone pleads, found guilty, they pull that money and start paying their fines and fees from what they posted. Well, that's not going to be there anymore, so we're going to fight a little more to get people to pay.
When is that?
January 23. Yeah, that's when no cash bail really takes, so I don't know if we're at the bottom of what we're collecting right now on fines and fees, so. Anybody has any questions?
Looks pretty straightforward.
Jill, you and I are talking about it, those two funds, the collection of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. And the money's being collected, I think,
Yeah, we'll have to get Lisa's
Yeah.
input as well.
Okay. And probation ops fee.
Yeah, and there's, what they did is they restructured they redid the fee structure in 19, and they took some fees away, but they added some fees. Everything's being collected, because we get the breakdown every month from Lisa. I get the breakdown, but it counted into.
It's changed.
Yeah, it's an easy fix, I think, it's just, you just noticed it.
Mhm.
To get that fixed, but the money's there.
Yeah. Then we got court services.
Yeah, those are two funds, the ops and the fund, the court services fund, are two funds, or two special funds we have to get ironed out.
Okay.
You know, which one of the money is going the right one, if there's gonna be one special fund.
I guess that's it.
It's pretty straightforward, just, you know, with no change really, but that's that.
Makes it easy. Any other questions for Tom? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
But you guys are ahead of schedule now, right?
Yes.
That's how it works.
That Lisa.
Would you say something? I got a question there, that maybe
Fees.
my mind is a little foggy, but like he's got it on probation, they're getting 2.5%. You got some people at 2 3/4, you got some people at 3. Are we gonna get that?
I told her, but I asked Jill at the end of the last meeting, it might have been out talking to,
Stuff I had to pull out.
maybe I didn't do it during the meeting, I don't know, but I asked Jill for our meeting next Thursday, the finance meeting, to get those aligned and then show us what it looks like under 2.5, 2 3/4, 3, whatever. But
Some
that
of
all
them
normalized.
Yeah, some of them like, we got union contracts that, but those are 2.5, aren't they?
No, it's 2. Well, for the FOP, it's 2.5, and then there's steps if they're involved with steps.
I
For
understand that, but
the AFSMI, it is 2.75 if they make under $13. If they make over over $13. If they make under $13 an hour, then it's 4%.
right, that
But you got all that, you gave them all that, right? Or she already did those calculations.
Mhm. Yeah, all of the union and the FOPs are all set in their salary sheets that I give them.
Yeah, and I'm not, I understand that, I agree with it, but there's a couple of these others here that getting me a little confused, like why is probation at 2.5?
That's their contract.
I know. But why did they agree to so little?
I don't know.
Zip it.
When's it, their contract's up
Well,
next year?
No, I don't.
no, they just did it this year.
Probation? Or yeah, What?
I just signed off on that not too many months ago, didn't
no, you signed off on
I? Yeah, I did.
the telecommunicators.
No.
Probation's out of King
Tom
County.
sent it, he got the thing all done, and he sent some paperwork down there that I needed to sign.
I just need,
That was just a few months ago.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I was thinking it was up next year.
I think next year, and probably should say this when Jill's here. Yeah, that probably needs to get, make sure we're right on that, but for all the normal employees or whatever, non-contracted employees, we'll call it, I think she should send it out under, the finance committee should give guidance on that. We just start off with a certain number, because I think it just makes it confusing, because one person puts in 3 and the next one puts in 2 3/4 and the next one 2.5, and we should just tell them, we're assuming this, and then we can talk about changing it during the meetings, but then at least all the numbers are,
I think most try to follow the contracts, but some kind of throw out a number.
but I mean the
That's
non-contract people
kind of what
seem to
I'm
be more.
getting at, is that looking through this, I understand the ones that.
We need to, like, the union ones obviously need
Well,
to be
no,
on
I'm saying
contract,
the
but
ones that.
oh, they
the
try
ones
to
that
follow
aren't
their contract.
Right, they know what the union contract is, so they try to
I see.
follow that
And like
percentage.
Samantha was there, she wants 3%. Well,
Well,
you know, is that what we want to do?
that's what I was just saying, Jill, when you walked out. That I think next year, just something to do. We, on the non-union employees, and I get, people can make requests or they can put it at the bottom, like we got these little, they're requesting more or whatever. That's fine, and they can come in and ask for it. But I think we should just have, maybe you should fill out the sheet for them and tell them, don't touch the salaries, and we just put in a 2.5 or 3 or whatever the committee decides is the guidance to start off with. And then if we decide to change it up or down or whatever,
Well, that's what I
then it would
usually,
keep everybody,
yeah, and that's what I do, is like
Oh,
in
okay.
their salary sheets, other than they don't touch anybody under contract, but there's some of them that will
Go
request
change it.
more for, and they'll change it. Yeah.
they're doing it even though.
Yeah,
they
their
don't.
contract is up
That's what
in,
I'm really
Okay.
talking to. We need to make sure we're.
yeah, their FOP
Don't
contract
let
is
them
up next
touch
year.
those, and then they can write it at the bottom, like, well, some of these they do, they, like Samantha writes in,
No, theirs is a
she wants
5-year.
$1,000 for this, and this reason, well, okay. Make a note at the bottom if you're requesting more, but don't touch the number up top, because,
They can ask all they want, but
right,
we're the ones that are.
because otherwise then she's gotta go back and fix all those, and it's a pain in the rear.
Mhm.
You just need to lock them out of those cells.
I can.
It is next year.
It's up next year. They have a 5-year contract. So theirs is 2.5%.
They had something, I think.
You're dreaming about probation negotiations.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
There was some prolonged negotiation up there,
I don't know.
and they finally got it resolved.
I feel like I have a vague remembrance, there was some issue between Kankakee and us or something that,
Well, you know, the circuit judge is the one that, the chief judge has to approve all that. But there were some negotiations with the, prolonged negotiations with the union up there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But theirs is not up until November 30th of 22.
I mean, we had prolonged negotiations with the telecommunicators and finally got it resolved, and then a few months later, we had to negotiate a new one.
Said that those home security things, whatever,
come under probation? Where is it in here? I couldn't find it.
In probation. He takes it out of. I gotta think now, Charlie, you're making me think. He's been taking it out of. He's been taking it out of his contract licenses line.
The license on the one?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see if I can, what number is that?
He's got 2,000 in there.
2,000?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's on page 101, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
As software contract licenses.
Okay, 2,000, it's got a budget.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
We probably ought to write down for our capital planning down the road here, the body cam things.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing with that is, you pointed out, you're gonna have to hire somebody just to administer the whole thing.
Well, he's got 2 assistants now.
Well,
Not
they'll
yet,
come up,
but
they'll
it's
come up
open.
with a reason why they can't do it.
Some of it might be entertaining.
I don't care, just put it on the pile.
Probably more entertaining than the general FOIA work that you do.
Right? Oh, yeah, you got an exciting one while you were on vacation for a septic. I just took care of it. I didn't, I told Brian to. I delegated.
Just do it.
We wait on somebody else now?
Lisa
I
Hines.
guess.
Oh, yeah. Who's gonna adjourn?
Go ahead.
What page is she on? Let's see.
107.
107.
I even tried to make sure they were all in order for you this year, Charlie.
Okay, circuit clerk, okay.
Where are we at on the pluses and minuses? We're probably, based on John's conversation with Watsika there, might need to move that number as a placeholder up to 120
Mm-hmm. And I
for
have
joint
it at 80.
dispatch.
So
So-
that's 40, and then
We are 40 off there.
we gained 10 with the county clerk fees. We're at 30 off.
And 30 more expensive.
Yeah, so we have to cut 60 some and some change.
My personal thing would be, and I don't know, I guess we got 2 people on the ETSB board here, but with this money coming out of the public safety fund and all the requests for 200,000 to ETSB, my personal opinion, which is all that it's worth, is that if we have, and you guys know your financial situation, because I'm not at the ETSB meetings, but if they have $1 million in the ETSB fund, and the recommendation from the people, fund planning or whatever, is that we have 6 months of cash on hand, and we have $1 million, and we got 3 or 4 times the amount that we need to be safe by their standards, that I would say that they my opinion recommendation would be that it doesn't come out of the public safety fund, and we use the money out of the ETSB to do those projects if we're gonna do those projects. And another thing that needs to be clear in that is, does that number, the software number, does it include our portion, or is that just the 911 portion? Our portion meaning the jail.
The 60,000?
That 60,000.
The way I read it, now I could be reading it different than Eric intends. I read it as it's a total of 200,000. He's requesting 60,000 from Iroquois County, which means that they would pay 140.
Okay, but then
But again,
he has a budget of, he had a budget request of 230,
I was like,
but 30 of that was your sprinkler,
Fire suppression.
whatever system, and the 200 I think is that. We just need to get clear.
Mhm.
So it kind of sounds like, based on the numbers I'm trying to remember from December or January, that the 60 must be included in that, would be my feeling. Because I don't feel like it was 260 for that entire software program. It
No.
was just under 200, I thought.
Right.
So it seems like he's requesting it, and we need to get clear on that, for the entire thing. But I don't know if our committee, Jill, you go to the meeting, so maybe we should send a recommendation. I mean, this is my word, so everybody else has to chime in, but that
might be a
the
minimum.
finance committee is not planning, first of all, we need to be clear on that.
Right.
And secondly, I don't think the county wants to approve, this is my words, we don't want to approve taking the public safety money to pay for that. We would recommend that they use money out of the surplus money in their fund to pay for that. If we need the new software, then it should come out of their money, not the public safety fund.
Mhm.
I don't know, you got opinions about that? Or?
Well, I guess maybe it's something that's involves some negotiation, maybe it could be 50-50 arrangement too.
Or
What are you
whatever.
shaking your head no for?
Because you want to give him more money. He's only requesting 60 from the county.
No, but then they're requesting money from
Public safety, right.
It's all the same.
Exactly.
I'm talking about the public safety. Instead of giving them 200, give them 100.
Well, because in his budget, this is where I'm confused as well. Yeah, out of ETSB, he has $319,183.21 for purchase of equipment and contingency. What is that for if we're requesting 200,000 out of public safety?
Well, that's me, I didn't make the budget.
I mean, that's $519,183.21. I don't understand.
Yeah, having the $90,000 contingency doesn't quite make sense to me, for starters. I mean,
You know, I think it'd be wise if you attended the ETSB meeting
okay,
Wednesday, 5 o'clock.
I'll try to be there.
Again, it's obvious it needs a lot of clarification, but I wouldn't be opposed to some negotiation
Well,
necessary.
maybe the message needs to be that we're definitely not on board with the 192.
No.
And And we need maybe I'll make a proposal and you guys can say yes. I propose that we send, or move that we send a message to the ETSB board that the finance committee, one, needs clarification on the software and if the numbers in the ETSB budget are inclusive of the jail portion or not.
Well, it looks like to me is he's requesting 200,000 from public safety to go into ETSB, and the whole CAD software is 200,000. So he's requesting all of it to come from public safety.
I think that can be resolved if both parties meet together.
Well, okay, number one, that, number two, that the 192,000
Mm-hmm.
is not,
It's not doable.
it's not doable. From the county to the joint dispatch. And number three, we definitely need to discuss the public safety amount contribution, because there's $1 million in the ETSB fund, and we're not sure on that needs to have further discussion.
I also would add that I think it plays into what I've stated before, and that is that we have all these funds, but do we have ever established what is the target amount to be in these funds? Are they overfunded, underfunded? Where are we at with these different funds? I mean, that's
The only
question
fund
that
right now that is,
You can't administer a fund if you don't have some.
1 second, can we get a second on my motion though?
I'll second it.
Okay.
oh, sorry. I mean,
And then discussion, yes, but I think there was some guidance back when Kyle was here and stuff of,
Oh, I don't know.
well, that Anita and them had gotten from, who was that, when they were making the fund charts and they had all that there was a certain amount of money, I don't know who it was, if it's the county organizations or whatever, that they recommended it was 6 months worth of expenses in the fund. That was the recommendation or something to that effect. That might not be the right number, but there was some recommendations, because
from what I read, it was considered to the general fund.
well, maybe it was.
And then the only fund that I know, in speaking with the auditors, that, I mean, we're in good terms with all of them except for our IMRF fund. We're showing quite a bit of an increase in. So that's why I requested, and I talked about that in my sheets, but that's why I requested that one to not request any money for that, for the FY22 through the levy.
But we probably need to get clarification on that.
And Kurt publishes a list every month of the different fund balances. Well, that's nice, but the average person on the board or wherever looks at that and says, okay, but where is this at? Are we above or below? I mean, either we should have another column with what the ideal amount should be, or at least some indication percent, they're above or below, but. I think
Maybe
it
that's
helps.
something we need to work on,
I
is
think it helps
establish
us.
targets for these funds, and then in his report, we can put an update to that if the target is to have 6 months worth of operating cash in there, and that number is $1 million, and we got $2 million in there, then at least that would make that report useful, because I agree, you get that report, and it's about like looking at,
Right, and
It's not really
and in
useful.
this case, you're
Does it?
talking
Yeah.
about
It just tells you your balances.
I know, I'm just saying it doesn't inform you of, is that good or bad, and what I'm saying is
So
that
we need an explanation form to go
well,
with.
it doesn't need to necessarily be a report, but I mean, if we establish targets or did some analysis or found out that, yes, we need to have 6 months worth of cash, then what is that number, and put it right next to it, and then you can go, yeah, we've got way too much money in that thing. We need to, maybe we should not levy as much or whatever, but that's
Gotcha.
text thing, they know that. It probably would make it more useful.
And you're talking with ETSB right now, the same thing, they got, however they got 800,000 million, whatever is in their fund, is that, do they need that or not? Is it too much or too little? Maybe it should be 2,000.
Well, that's I guess that's what I'm saying, is
Maybe it should
if
be
it
five.
is 6 months worth,
Maybe it
and
should
that,
be 500.
we probably ought to confirm that number maybe before next Wednesday, is what is that right, the recommended number by these people? Either the auditors or whoever would help make those recommendations of what they think is a good number to be at. Because this is what I was trying to say yesterday. If the ETSB's function under the way we're structured right now is to be buying equipment and paying the director's salary and joint dispatches to take care of telecommunicators, and let's just say it is only 6 months worth of cash and they got an extra $750,000 and they want to buy equipment, well, that's why the money's there. You know, so maybe rather than take it from the public safety fund, or at least that could be a discussion, then that should be done. But or maybe there's not enough money there. I don't know. But we probably do need to figure that out. Okay. So we had a motion and a second to send them those 3 points. And then I guess that's the discussion. And all in favor? Aye. And I will try and be there, and I know Jill's gonna be there, and I can go over those things, so, and we got 2 guys here, so. Okay, sorry, Lisa.
That's all right. I don't want any money out of the public safety tab. I think I'm good. I don't know what page you have first. I have my salaries.
107.
We have 110, 245, 327.
Okay, those are salaries.
Yeah.
I have the salaries at $240,465.91. I pretty much kept my girls at the girls that were over $15 an hour at 2.75, which was plugged in already, and then the ones under 15 at the 4% as a raise. I used to have 7 employees. I do have a job opening right now. So I had 1 opening. I hired someone. She has not started yet, but I have another opening, and I'm having a hard time with that one. So hopefully, I did transfer in a little extra out of my automation to cover some of those salaries. So in unclaimed bonds then.
Yep.
Okay. I'm not sure why we do this anymore, because the state now gets all of this money. We used to, when we would have outstanding bonds, nobody cashed their checks or restitution, we would have to publish it, which we still do. We publish, send out letters saying, hey, you haven't cashed your check from 5 years ago, so we can get it off our books. We used to turn the bonds over to the county, and then 5 years after that, you could put it in the general fund. Now, it all goes to the state. So you're not gonna get any money out of this anymore.
We can look at closing it if you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that 14,000 was the first year I did it, and we transferred a ton. But now, a couple years ago, the state decided they want all the money, so. And we've been pretty lucky with finding people, so we haven't had too many outstanding, so that has been good. I think the next one is at court document storage, or, yep.
Yes.
Okay, I put in there that we would generate about 53,000. My expenses for next year, I may want to do I may want to microfilm some, but I put 20,000. This year's forecast is way off. It says 34,000, and we're at 17,000. I'm probably not going to spend much more out of that fund, so.
Okay.
That really that's not accurate. And then I will transfer 25,000 into the general fund. And then Historical Society, they do a lot of things for me. They look up things when we're busy, and I can send a lot of people there. So I'm gonna give them 20,000 this year, because I think they're kind of hurting. So, or for next fiscal year. And then my automation fund, same thing, generate about 53,000 out of it. My automation expenses, I put 25,000, I've only spent 18, so that too is, I probably won't spend much more than 18. Usually at the beginning of the year is when I pay for all my software, so that eats it up pretty good. But And then I will transfer out of the automation 30,000, so, to the general fund. But other than that, I don't know if you wanna go over revenues. Revenues is just kind of, I mean, I don't, some things have gone up, some things have gone down. It's just because of the new fine and the assessment fees by statute. I am surprised how many people are paying. We have a comptroller's program that if we turn it over to collections, if collections cannot find them, they turn it over to the state. And the state, if you get any kind of refund from the state, they're gonna snag that first and send it to us, so. Because of COVID, we aren't getting as much from the state, but it's starting to build back up, or they're starting to get a little more, so hopefully. I think circuit clerk's fees, I put 190. Criminal fines are down, only because right now they can have their fees waived by statute. So if they go up and they don't make enough, they can't waive the fine, which that's pretty much what the criminal fines are, but they're just not, I mean, they're not paying. I mean, the felons, they're not, we turn them over to collections after their probation is off, but you get a few here and there, but. Animal confinement, 5,000 I put. Public defender fees, 5,000. That's give or take, sometimes you get more. And then the drug fund, it just depends if they're arrested for a drug fee or not, if you get that. And then county fees, 10,000, they've went down a little because of the assessment statute, and court costs, I put 40,000, so. That's about it. I don't, I'm not asking for any money, except for my employees, but just for that part of it.
Okay.
And if you ever need any more or anything, just come talk to me.
Okay. Thank you for
If you
coming
have any
over.
questions?
Talk real nice, huh?
Yeah, you talk nice, I might. Just depends on the day.
All right.
Lisa, do you still have one employee that's part-time?
Yes,
Is it Leslie?
she's going part-time.
Okay, she is.
Jacqueline will no longer be an
Right.
employee. I was gonna come over and talk to you.
Okay.
And then I have a full-time one starting August 9th.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to keep putting the ad. If you would put that ad on the website and maybe in the paper again.
Is that a federal thing that you got?
I'll just leave it on the
Transferred
website, I'll
Yeah.
get it in the paper
Like
for
that.
the 2 weeks.
I tried to do it on
Yeah.
Indeed, and they charge you 10 bucks an ad. I'm like,
When you
huh,
go to
well,
apply
not
for
doing
that.
that, so.
I'll just leave it on the website until we
I
hire
don't know what I got.
somebody.
Okay.
But I'll only run it in the paper for 2 weeks.
Run it
I
in the
don't
paper
remember.
again. I haven't got a bill for it, but if you want to give it to me to get it.
Okay.
I couldn't do that.
Okay.
See you guys.
Thank you.
You
All right.
say you're,
I think that wraps all that up.
I'd have.
Second one was, if you had more money.
So we know what kind of adjustments to make to the budget, and we're gonna do the analysis of making sure everybody's salaries. So before, I'll say it again so everybody's listening. Before, we got our next meeting next Thursday for the normal finance committee. And we got a couple, health department and,
I don't know if the health department will be ready for their budget to be presented, because I'm not 100% sure
Sure.
if they're finalized or not.
That
And then
doesn't-
I'm sure, if
and
Eric
then
has
we'll be some
updates
kind
on
of
his.
update from the night before with ETSP. But I guess in preparation for that, I had asked Jill, I don't remember if I did that in the meeting or not, but Jill was gonna put together and make sure all the non-union salaries are, we have the analysis like she did last year where everybody's at 2.5 or 3, so it's all the same, because we normally keep those numbers the same, so we can see what the numbers look like under each of those scenarios. And then we had a couple of adjustments to the actual budget that we need to make that I think we just discussed a little bit ago, there was the $10,000 for
County clerk fees,
county clerk fees.
and
There
then
was
40,000 for the.
40,000 that was, well, yeah, 40,000 probably higher for the joint dispatch as a placeholder for now. Because that would be in line with kind of 2 years ago and what Watsika said they seemed to indicate that they would be more than likely willing to do. So we can look at it from that, and then I think that was it. So we'll have that for next Thursday, and I would just say good job to both of you, that this is by far, at the end of the day two, the closest we've ever had to being, the budget being balanced. Not that it's over yet, but we're normally, I think, sitting here right about now at about $350,000, $400,000, $500,000 off, and sounds
Yeah.
like we're, with those two adjustments, are like we're
Less than-
unbalanced by 60,000-ish. So that's a lot better than we normally are at this point in time. So I think that's a testimony to Jill and Amanda and everyone else that came in that wasn't asking for crazy things. So that's good. Kept it easy. So I guess, do we have any old business or new business? And if not, we need a motion to adjourn. Charlie, seconded by Paul. All in favor? Aye.
I'll get something updated.